Am I guys? Is everything sounding good? Are you guys seeing me? Trimmed my beard. I more than I wanted to. It was kind of a happy little mistake. It was getting a bit bushy, but yeah. So it's a little trimmed. Let's see. Do we got? Let me see. Is this working out? Is the chat dead? I know it was lively a second ago. I didn't even refresh this thing. Let me see. Is everything looking good on? Is everything good? Let me see. Got you here? Okay. We good? We good? Let me see. I mean, like I said, I feel like I feel like the chat just died. So okay. All right. Are we good? Yeah. So the Olympic ceremony. I was gonna say like it didn't really disappoint, but I mean obviously it did. What's going on? Understanding conspiracy? Gosh, it's got to be late where you're at. Why aren't you in bed? Yeah, but I mean, it's like the Olympics. It's like it didn't really disappoint, or it did, depending on who you ask. I mean, when it comes down to it, I think most of us are aware now that they kind of show us stuff through the ceremonies, the rituals. And I mean, obviously these are straight up rituals. If anything, it's kind of like that, like everything else in the culture, it feels like things have been dumbed down because it doesn't really seem like there was much coded in that, was it? It was just obviously we have drag queen Last Supper blasphemy. We have like with the headless woman, was that is it Anne Bolet, and then the rock concert thing, let them eat cake, right? Is that what that's about? And then we have maybe the one coded thing I would probably give you is the pale horse stuff. It was kind of like when I first saw all the stuff I saw on Twitter, it was kind of like, what is it? The Hunger Games meets Westworld. So that's the kind of thing that I was really kind of keyed in on was the the mechanical horse with the strange rider. That I got very Westworld vibes from that. Oh, Mary Antoinette, silly that I. Yeah, I got the Westworld vibes from that, and of course, so if there's any predictive programming into that, what we'd have is, nothing new per se, but we have the AI robotic apocalypse. Is that what they're predicting? Probably. Wait, so if it's Mary Antoinette, who was Anne Boleyn? Didn't she get her head chopped off too? Am I getting was she a British? Understanding conspiracy's got to know this answer. But yeah, so I mean the Last Supper thing. All right, is there anything more played than them mocking the Last Supper? It's like they're really not even creative, are they? I mean, and the one thing I was kind of thinking, and I almost, like I said, I almost jumped on the bandwagon like everyone else and made a video, obviously slamming that and how horrible it was. At the same time, like if you think about it, they know the reaction they're going to get when they do that. Correct? I mean, am I wrong? Do you think anyone was surprised that people were offended by that? Absolutely not. So why did they do it? For one, they don't care. And for two, I believe they did it so everyone would share it a million times on social media, more than a million times. So that's one reason I decided not to share that stuff. Because it's kind of like, I mean, when they're just blasphemous in that kind of way, then how am I helping by amplifying it? I mean, it is good that there's sponsors pulling out of the thing after that. But I mean, is anybody really that surprised by it? I mean, I don't feel. Yeah, it's very played. Obviously, this is the most trans way I've ever seen it portrayed, but or maybe not. I mean, the Last Supper thing is like what is with the Last Supper thing? The wife asked me that question. It's like, why do you think that they always mock that particular thing? And I was trying to think. It's like maybe because I think that painting is coded, and I believe that there's some kind of astronomical kind of message in there, possibly, like through the zodiac and everything. I do believe that. Yeah, obviously they have the blue guy who is Dionysus, and he's the god of like parties and wine, debauchery. Yeah, so then you have the Last Supper thing, and it's like my first take was that they usually mock the Last Supper because it's easily identifiable with Jesus. So, I mean, that could be it in itself. It's just the fact that, hey, we're going to, on the biggest stage, we're going to mock Jesus. That might be all there is. Maybe that's it. But I do think that there's also, again, because I think, the person who was supposed to be representing Jesus in this Last Supper, which was this lesbian Jewish woman, I think, or I'm sorry if I'm misidentifying her, but she's got like the stars are kind of almost like, I wonder if that's like kind of sunburst where she's representing the sun in this mockery. But yeah, oh yeah, and then there was a guy who was literally letting his globes hang out. And this is on TV. This is live on TV. Yeah, my brother shared that, and obviously Facebook took the picture down. Thankfully. But I mean, but like literally that was on the opening ceremony to the Olympics. I mean, what you can see honestly is just the very easiest thing to see is this is degeneracy. This is clearly just degeneracy. I mean, this is supposed to be like representing like, the best and the brightest, the youthful athletes and all this stuff, the best amongst us. And this is how they started off. I mean, obviously that kind of says it all. It says it all when you're like us who are believing that we're on the backside of the peak of civilization. These are good examples to say, do you think anything's getting better? Does anyone think that things are getting better? Because I bet you, if you went back, every opening ceremony to the Olympics, whether coded or satanic or not, it was better than that. It was definitely better than that. So again, if we're supposed to be coming to the singularity where things are supposed to be getting better, then how do you explain that? I mean, it's just, yeah. And at the end of the day, I really don't want to talk about it too much. But I mean, again, like we should not be surprised by any of this stuff. Actually, I almost shared a video and I might make a reel out of this, but okay, so what do the Olympics really represent? Okay, you think Olympics, you think Mount Olympus, right? You guys are aware of what Mount Olympus symbolizes, right? That's where the gods of the Greeks lived. All of them did. And so I found this, I saw an article that was very interesting. And maybe we can read it together because this is what this is about. Okay. Think about the torch lighting ceremony, which again, degeneracy. I mean, regardless of the kind of music I listened to in the 90s, Snoop Dogg is lighting the torch. Okay, let's just talk about who Snoop Dogg is for 1 second. What is Snoop Dogg most known for? He's obviously a very famous rapper, but he's probably more known for the fact that he likes to smoke marijuana. Like that's literally what he's known for. But what he's also known for, being a criminal. What he's also known for, what a lot of people don't know is, do you remember that song, Murder Was the Case They Gave Me? So Murder Was the Case was a song off his his hit CD, Doggy Style. And what that song is about is, for one, he's selling his soul to the devil in that song, right? He sells his soul to the devil. But what the song is also about was the fact that Snoop Dogg he was literally on trial for murder. I mean, I can't remember how exactly it went, but obviously he was on trial for murder because he was involved in some kind of drive-by shooting where somebody was killed. Somebody was unalived. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, there was questions if Snoop Dogg was I believe he was in the Bloods, right? Or is he in the Crips? I should know this, but I don't, like I said, I don't really know that. He had to be in the Crip or the Bloods, right? Because Suge Knight. Okay, so this guy is lighting the torch. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is degeneracy. I'm not saying people don't get a second chance, but I am saying, like, that, you know, it's one thing to say that he's kind of a little bit of they've tried to make Snoop Dogg all nice and cuddly. But what the guy is rapped about, what he claims to be, whether it's he's a Crip, okay, he's a Freemason, yeah, probably he probably is, yeah. So he's all those things, but he obviously has this image, and they've tried to soften his edges. But I mean, like, at the end of the day, it's like this guy he promotes drug use. Obviously, that's not something that the Olympics is for, right? He promotes gang violence, all that stuff. He'd probably say he's against that now, but I mean, literally, that's how he got famous. Do you remember that song 187? 187 on a mother effing cop? Like, that's Snoop Dogg's song, him and Dr. Dre. I mean, like, that's who he is. But again, yeah. So Sir smokes a lot over here. And so obviously the guy who's very handy with fire, sparks up the Olympic torch. Yeah. So anyways, let's check out this article real quick. I sent myself this thing. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. So let me see if I can screen share this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this says, you guys seeing this? Okay, devotees invoke ancient Greek deities on Mount Olympus foothill. Okay, and so this is what this is really about right here. Dressed in white robes and colorful tunics, devotees of polytheism each year honor gods on Mount Olympus with ceremonies they say can revive ethos, rituals, and lifestyles of the ancient Greeks. The 4-day Promethean Festival has been running since 1996, attracting visitors to the foothills of Mount Olympus, where, according to mythology, ancient Greek gods lived. Organized say it aims to infuse ancient Greek values and the spirit into modern life. Olympus is a great journey towards Hellenism. It is the abode of the gods, and everything starts from here, said a 55-year-old Georgia Anthe, I'm not even going to try to say that name, president of the Culture Association Prometheus Pytharos, which organizes the festival. This year, July 4th through the 7th, festival kicked off with the torch lighting ceremony and a relay of the archaeological site of Dion to an area called the Prometheus Grove. And look, there you go. So there's a statue to Apollo, you know, their sun god. And it says, raising their hands to the sky, pouring wine on the ground, probably for Dionysus, and dipping their feet in the Inapis River. Participants said they aim to appease or honor gods or urge deities to purify their souls. Polytheism recognizes the divine within the world, which manifests itself in many forms, which different entities, the so-called gods and goddesses, said. Christos Padion Panopoulos, a founding member of the religious community conducting some of the rituals. The festival takes its name from Prometheus, who, according to mythology, stole fire from the Olympian gods to offer it to humankind. Every element of nature is a god, a goddess. And man, gosh, I can't say these Greek names. As a Greek woman and as a human being, I have an obligation towards the divine whole to take care of it and to love it. And look at these people. Yeah, how about that? Let's see. So yeah, guys, this is kind of what it's about right here. So you think about it, like, so the torch lighting. So they have a torch lighting as well. And who does that symbolize? Prometheus. Prometheus is the god who stole fire from the other gods in order to give it to humans. Now, there's some debate. A lot of people believe that Prometheus, once again, is Satan. Well, again, Satan means adversary, so Satan could mean the old serpent, the devil himself, or it could mean another deity. Who is it? Well, it's interesting, that story. It kind of reminds me of the Watchers, because I think obviously fire is symbolic of some kind of technology. I mean, in these kind of stories, it's almost symbolizes the fact that they believe that man was like cavemen and stuff like that. We don't believe that. And I don't think they even believe that. I think that's a story that's told to us. But I believe that it's likely that, again, man was never primitive. But obviously the Watchers gave them more technology. And I think that that's kind of what it could symbolize, especially because the fact that these people are polytheistic. Obviously, there's 200 Watchers. There's there's an angel. There's a God for all the different things. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, like, but I think to me, that's obviously, if you think about it, the Olympics are called the Olympics. Mount Olympus, that's where their gods are. They light the torches. Obviously, you can symbolize, once again, Apollo, the Statue of Liberty, the statue of Lucifer holding a torch. It could, yeah. So you could say it's the light bringer, the light bearer, Prometheus. I mean, so this is what it's really about. So when they disrespect Jesus in front of a international audience, a worldwide audience, don't be surprised. Like, don't be surprised by this. I mean, like, that's what this is about. I mean, this is not for our God. This is for the gods of Mount Olympus. So, I mean, we should not be surprised. And again, it's interesting how in this day and age that if Satan is loosed, then yeah, they all this stuff is clearly on display. You know, it's interesting. I think that the Olympics were obviously an ancient tradition. Thank you, Nightmare Before Christ. Thank you so much. Now, obviously, the Olympics are an ancient tradition, but they weren't revived until I think the 19th century. So what was interesting? I have to look that up. Let's see when the let me look that up real quick. When were let's see, history of the Olympics. Okay, let's go in here. Okay, so this is interesting, guys. It says, let's share this real quick. Okay, we'll do some more reading. Okay, the Olympic Games have a rich history that began in ancient Greece and was revived in the late 19th century. Ancient Greece first documented Olympic Games took place in 1776, of course. Look at that. Check that out. 776 BC. Wow, that's interesting. In Olympia, Greece, a sacred site honoring Zeus. Obviously, the Bible calls Zeus Satan. So there you go. The games were part of a religious festival that were held every 4 years until 393 AD. Free Greek men of all social classes, including soldiers, farmhands, royal heirs, were allowed to compete. The first recorded Olympic champion was Coroebus of Elis, a cook who won a sprint race in 770 Yes. So I keep on wanting to say 1776. 776. In 1894, Baron, uh, is it Paris, is it Perrier, de Corbiton, man, I'm butchering these names, a Frenchman founded the International Olympic Committee, IOC, and proposed a revival of the ancient games. The first modern Olympic Games were held in Athens in 1896, with an estimated of 80,000 people in attendance. 43 events featuring athletes from 13 countries. The royal family crowned the winners at the end of these games. Many of them were Americans. That's interesting that it was 13 countries, much like the 13 colonies. Yeah, it was a is there anything interesting in here? The Winter Games were added in 1924. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, but how about that? How about that, guys? Is that, again, think about the time of Satan being loosed. The 1800s, the 19th century, everything happened in that time. Like, so much happened. So meanwhile, it's like they're doing all these world fairs. They revived the Olympics. Oh my gosh. Is this saying this again? What is going on? Are we still good? Are we still good? Browser preventer. Let me see. Sorry, guys. This is some technical difficulties. Sorry, I don't know why it's not. I don't know why my computer's doing that. Is everything still good on you guys' side? Okay, good. Yeah. So that being said, all this time we have the Olympics starting right around the time they're doing all these World's Fairs. And then again, if we believe, like we believe that we're in the little season, we're guessing that Satan was loose sometime in maybe the 18th century, 1776-ish. And then you think you're a couple generations away from reviving the games that honored the old Olympian gods. Again, so it honored Zeus. So the Bible would say, and Revelation, I think, is it Revelation chapter 3. Let's go look over there. So Revelation chapter 3 mentions, all right. Yeah, so it says, we go to the angel of the church of Pergamum. Where is that written? Where is that in Revelation chapter 2? Okay, Revelation 2:12. And to the angel of the church of Pergamos write, these things saith he who hath the sword which is two edges. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. Thou holdest fast my name and hast not denied my faith, even in the days wherein Antipas, my faithful witness, martyred, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. And so in Pergamum, Turkey, let's see, altar to Zeus. So let's see this. Let's share this real quick. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, but so this is in Pergamum, Turkey. So the Pergamum altar. And so check it out. There you go, right there. So that right there is your altar to Zeus. And it definitely resembles a seat or a throne. And so the Bible says this. So this was in Pergamos, Turkey, back in the day, and this was an altar to Zeus. And it was saying Pergamos was where Satan's seat was. And again, this temple is to Zeus. So obviously you can make a direct one-to-one comp. Satan, Zeus, same entity. Now, what's really fascinating by this is the fact that that's real. Like that is the original altar right there. Or at least we're told. So this is actually in a museum in Berlin now. So it's not actually in Turkey anymore. Yeah, this thing used to be in Pergamos, Turkey, but it was actually taken apart piece by piece by the Germans in the early, I believe, maybe it was the late 1800s. Let's see where it says on here, if I can find where it says they took it apart. Let me see. Okay, so in the early 20th century, the altar found a new home in Berlin, Germany, 2,677 kilometers from its original location, where it had remained on view since 1930 as a centerpiece on the museum bearing its name. So they took this altar apart piece by piece and moved it to Berlin. Obviously, think about the Germans from the 30s. They weren't very good, were they? That's crazy. I mean, so it's all crazy. It's like a crazy, like if you guys had ever seen like the Indiana Jones movies, like, so obviously that stuff was real. Obviously, I'm not saying that the Indiana Jones was actually the whole thing was real, but I'm saying like what those Germans from the 30s in those movies were doing, they were searching for relics, religious type relics, magical relics for power. And we know like literally they got Satan's seat over here. And they still have it in Berlin now. And like I said, you see all the stuff that the Germans have done over the years, and yeah, it all kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So that is who the Olympics are to honor. Zeus. And again, the other Olympian gods, including Prometheus. So it's sort of interesting when you go into Book of Revelation, where in my mind, I see it like this. I think Satan, Zeus are the same entity. You know, the devil, the serpent are Zeus. Now his son was Apollyon. Apollyon, you know, he's the one in the bottomless pit who Satan goes down and lets free in Revelation 9:11. Now I likened him to Apollyon, you know, so Zeus's son was Apollo. And again, so in those rituals to the Olympian gods, we saw in Greece earlier, they had an idol of Apollo. I'm telling you, it's all. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good call. Maybe we should look that up. Here's something that can go right into the old world discussion. Is yeah, Visionary Vet says Athena stands in the Parthenon in Nashville. The Parthenon equals 666. Are you saying that's in gematria? Let's see. Nashville Parthenon. Now this thing is absolutely insane. Let me see. This is another one of those very strange stories that we get about, like, this wasn't quite a World's Fair, but look, like, guys, that's literally in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a lifestyle, like what it says. The Parthenon stands proudly in the centerpiece of Centennial Park, Nashville's premier urban park. The recreation of the 42-foot statue of Athena is the focus of the Parthenon, just as it was in ancient Greece. The building and Athena statue are full-scale replicas of Athenian originals. Let's see where they. Wait, are they showing it in there? Okay, where is this? Okay, we see. We still seeing this? Okay, yeah. Where is that ugly statue of Athena? Okay, there you go. Is that the biggest I can make it? Well, you guys see right there. So that's the statue of Athena that's inside of it. And I think that statue is, let's see if it says exactly how tall it is. Let me see. I got to find a better picture than that. Let's see. Now you see how like, you see. What's really interesting. Do you know what Athena is actually holding in her hand? Let me see if I can get a better look at that. Okay, she's holding what appears to be an angel. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe that that's actually the god Nike. Oh, look, there's a serpent. Further, there you go. Let's see. Griffin. Let me see. Let me go back. Yeah, I believe that's the god Nike in Athena's hand right there. And gosh, that thing looks demonic as can be. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at that good Christian man out there. Idolatry comes to Nashville in the guise of art. Exodus 20, verse 4, Acts 17:16, and 1 John 5:21. I think that says, little children, keep yourself from idols. Look at that. Look how tall that thing is. Yeah, look at that. Bringing your kid in there. Let me see if let me see if I can find that. See, Athena, Nike. Yeah, so there you go. It says in here, it says the Temple of Athena, Nike. Yeah, so let's see. Let me see where it says. Of course, it's interesting. I'm sure, is Nike the sponsor of this one? Okay, so Nike in mythology is, in Greek mythology, ancient religion, Nike, the ancient Greeks, Nike equals victory, is the goddess who personifies victory in any field, including art, music, war, and athletics. She's often portrayed in Greek art as a winged victory in the motion of flight. However, she can also appear as wings as the wingless victory when she is portrayed as an attribute of another deity, such as Athena. Yeah, so let's go back. Nashville, Parthenon. Oh, look, they sell Medusa shirts there. Oh, man. I didn't really want to go to Facebook. Sorry about that. Yeah, but there you go. There you go. That is Nike in Athena's hand. No, but see, people say that Nike's Saturn's ring, which it could be, but what's clearly is Nike is the goddess of victory. And so Nike is an angel. So obviously the swoop is probably just a wing. Not saying it couldn't be related to Saturn as well, but it's very clearly related to Athena, the goddess of victory. It makes perfect sense. That's why they named the shoes Nikes. But yeah, so. Well, anyways, guys, this was supposed to be an Ask Me Anything, and I've been talking for a while now. So if you guys are interested in asking some questions, I'm sure if you guys have already asked some, I've missed them. I'm sorry. But yeah, as we've been going down the rabbit hole of Greek mythology, the Olympics, Revelation chapter 2, what do we got? Who's got a question? That's why some false flags usually see Nike shoes laying around. Interesting. Well, I mean, it's like there's really nothing new under the sun. I mean, isn't it interesting? Like the Olympic Games are brought back in the late 19th century. You know, the centennial celebration in Nashville. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the Nashville thing. So supposedly the celebration of Nashville or Tennessee being a state for 100 years, they had a centennial celebration where they decked out Tennessee to look like ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and supposedly they demolished everything afterwards, much like all the other World's Fair stuff. It wasn't quite a World's Fair, but it was the same kind of thing. Let's actually look at that real quick. Let's see. Centennial. Let's see, Nashville Centennial. Okay, National Centennial Celebration. Yeah, let's check this out. All right, you guys got to see this. Let's share this, and then we'll take some questions. All right, so this is Tennessee Centennial Exposition, and if you guys see this stuff, it's like, so we have obviously we have a Parthenon. Like this is all this stuff was built in Nashville, and was it in 18? What's the date on this? Let me look at this. Okay, so the Tennessee Centennial and International Exposition was an exposition held in Nashville from May 1st to October 31st, 1897, and is now the Centennial Park. A year late, it celebrated its 100-year anniversary of Tennessee and entered into the Union in 1796. President William McKinley officially opened the event from the White House, where he pressed a button that started the machinery building the fair. He would visit in person a month later. Yeah, so this is one of the craziest pictures. So it's like, look, you have a pyramid, you have the Parthenon, and you look like you have some other big state building behind it. And what we're told is that the Parthenon was a replica. It was not made of stone. It was a temporary building. And later they demoed it, but they liked it so much they built a real one shortly afterwards. That is, do you guys believe that? I don't believe that. I don't believe that one bit. Yeah, here's what it says. The Parthenon replica built for the exposition was made of temporary materials. Because of its popularity, it was reconstructed in permanent materials in a project lasting from 1920 to 1931. Today, it is used for an art museum among exhibits of Alan Lequire's 1990 recreation of Athena Parthenos statue. But look at that. So I guess all those buildings you see right there were in Nashville. Unbelievable. And they did this because 100 years. And obviously, I'm sure they threw it together real fast. And yeah, so that's just how they rolled. That's how they rolled back in those days. Yeah. How about that? All right, so we got a question here. It says, question, JT, what do Isaiah 11:6-9? I mean, you can read them and it would be interesting in further discussion. I mean, that you're going to have to do a little bit, ask me questions a little more straight up than that. Give me like 10 verses to read. All right, from different passages. Like just ask your question. Like I can't work with that. Anybody got a question that I can actually answer without researching first? Let me see. Can you explain turn the other cheek? I've seen what Tate said, and he's not wrong. We allow this evil. We allow these demons in power, and I don't believe Christ would want us to cower in these demons? Well, I think that like turning the other cheek obviously means that like for one, it's like you're not supposed to fight back. I mean, you think about it, like if our example is that Jesus, who did no wrong, committed no crime, went to the cross and did not fight back. You know, you have Peter taking out his sword when Jesus is going to be arrested and chops off his ear. Jesus puts it back on. Okay. So the point was that Jesus could have sent legions of angels to defend him anytime he wanted. But that's not what it was. That's not what the goal was. I think what it is like, I think when I saw what Tate was saying about that, I think that I do believe these are faith issues. And I think that our voices should be heard, right? If we live in a democratic republic or whatever, and no matter how well you think that is, obviously our voices should be heard. And that's what we're doing on these platforms. We're exposing this stuff. We're pointing it out. We're saying how awful it is. Now, it's tougher when you got to say like that. Are you going to boycott the Olympics now? I mean, so some people won't watch now. Good. I mean, obviously that hurts them where it counts. I think what it comes down to is like that when Peter's talking about we're supposed to be subject to the authorities we're under. And if we're punished for doing good, then there's a blessing behind that, not doing wrong. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that if you guys want to protest, you want to boycott the Olympics, I think that's fine. Like I said, I think these are faith issues. I mean, I do think that you should we have a voice. We should not allow wickedness to just go rampant and not do anything about it. But at the same time, like turning the other cheek, yeah. I mean, turning the other cheek is obviously literally about getting hit in the face. So this is not getting hit in the face. I mean, like I said, we still have the option to let our voices be heard, and we should. All right, James. I'll read those. Okay, so Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 11, and it was 6 through 9. Oh, the wolf also dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. Okay, so I mean, I think what this is about is the restoration of Eden. Okay, so because you imagine during the Garden of Eden that they were not going to be eaten by the animals. The animals were not eating each other. You know, this is obviously the perfect time of God's creation on God's holy mountain. I think that Eden has been restored, but we don't have access to Eden. Just think about it, like when Jesus told the thief on the cross that when you die, you'll be with me in paradise today. Paradise is Eden. Eden was restored at that point. So again, but he had to die to go there. So I think I don't think it's symbolic. I think it's literal, but I think that Eden is a physical, spiritual place that we don't have access to. Let me see. Okay, question. Non-Olympic, but news broke at the same time. Have you seen the Sanya Massey release that said I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and the cop snapped? It's not racial, it's spiritual. I've not seen that. I've not. Tate is Fed posting. He glows so hard. See. Do you think evil hides behind the name of a church, like the Jesuits of the Knights of Malta? Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, I think that, again, what does it say in Corinthians? It says that if Satan can appear as an angel of light, it should be no mystery that Satan can also appear as of workers of righteousness. So, like, yes, basically saying, like, yeah, if he can show himself to be an angel, he can disguise himself as ministers of righteousness. So obviously there's evil in lots of churches, very clearly. Question: 7 hills could equal 7 continents. It could, but I think that when you have 7 hills, when you have the beast in the book of Revelation has 7 heads, and the 7 heads represented 7 mountains. Rome was known as the town or the city with 7 hills. So I think that's why, like, the beast in the book of Revelation is Rome. I mean, in the book of Daniel, the 4th beast, the more terrifying beast with like the metal teeth and everything, the different beast, that was Rome. So I think it's very obvious that, again, if that was about the end times, which I think everyone agrees it was, that Rome was the beast. Yeah. Do you believe in self-defense? Shouldn't we protect our family if someone breaks in or is doing us harm in public for no reason? I believe there's a time in war and time to turn the other cheek. Yeah, I believe that the law is love. So the real question is, like, why are you doing what you're doing? The why is always the most important thing. So yeah, if you had to fight to defend your family, yeah, obviously I don't think that there's anything that's not a sin. I mean, like, unless you think it's a sin. Well, it's interesting. We have those stories. What was it? I forgot what the movie's called. Is it was it a Clint Eastwood movie where there was a guy, I think he was a 7-day Adventist, and he refused to use a gun during World War II. And he's I think he was highly decorated, though. He saved a bunch of people. Obviously, to him, picking up a gun and shooting somebody was a sin, even if it was for your country. So if he would have done that, he would have went against his own conscience, which would have been the Holy Spirit telling him not to do that, and that would have been a sin. So I think it's definitely it's personal. It's obviously situational. It's a heart issue, faith issue. The word said, "Lion will lie down with the lamb." It has been supernaturally changed to wolf. That's one of those ones that everyone talks about, the Mandela effect. I mean, I think I remember reading it, "Lion lie down with the lamb." It's weird that it's wolf. I don't know. I won't watch the ceremony or the games. There's a hidden mind control in all of it. Yeah. Let's see. Am I getting behind? Okay. It's a wolf. Did people have a choice to stay after the 1,000 years, or only the ones with heavenly body could not stay? Well, I believe that obviously people who resurrected had heavenly bodies, everyone else did not. And so I believe that the resurrected people live in New Jerusalem, which is a heavenly city. Obviously, I believe it's associated with Eden, and I believe that's where they're reigning from. Now, it's like I say, it's my belief, and I think that just based on the kingdom of heaven makes sense that it's in heaven. It wasn't on earth. Obviously, I believe that the saints could go back and forth. Jesus could go back and forth. Obviously, Jesus could do whatever he wants to do. But so I think that they lived in Eden, New Jerusalem, but they could go back and forth. But again, like I said, there's not a lot written about that. So it's I think it's up to our own interpretation or our own ideas. James says literal, awesome. However, this is in Jerusalem, not Eden, as the same prophet Isaiah clearly states multiple times verses. One many. Well, New Jerusalem could be associated with Eden. You know, God's holy mountain is Eden. There's a garden there. I think they're the same thing. But I think that obviously when you're associating with the animals, I think it's associated with Eden. I think that's a restoration of Eden. Did you know that Washington, D.C. sits on 7 hills too? I believe that there's 7 hills in Israel too. Have you ever watched The Journey to Center of the Earth 2? A lot of symbolism. I have not. Could we discuss the kingdom sometime, JT? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, You want to be more specific about that? But sure, I guess. Hacksaw Ridge. That's correct. Thank you for the help. JT, have you heard of Derek Jester? Yes, that guy's right about some things, but for one, his tone is terrible, and I think he's overly inflammatory on purpose, probably for clicks. I don't like the spirit he comes with. See, do you think the buildings in DC were built by Rome or they by the Millennial Kingdom buildings? That's what I was talking with that with Biocharisma on our last live stream, and I do think it's interesting. I think it's interesting the fact that these buildings that are associated with Rome, such as the Pantheon, are very similar to the buildings in DC. I mean, everybody says that. Everybody says, hey, this place looks like Rome. And if you read your history books, they'll tell you that Thomas Jefferson decided he wanted to look on like Rome on purpose to project strength. Okay, but so here's the real question: is like when you actually try to look in this. Maybe I can find this where it says. Let me see. Pantheon in Rome. Let's see if you go look into. Okay, let's see what it says about the Pantheon in Rome. Okay, so if you go look at the Pantheon in Rome, let's see. I'll share this screen. Okay, so you see this building. So this building has, like, I think to date, it's got like the biggest unsupported concrete dome in the world. And so what it says about this building, it says the date of construction is uncertain because Hadrian chose not to inscribe the new temple, but rather to retain an inscription of Agrippa's older temple. I remember John Levi looking into this where it was like again, it's saying founded. Okay, so there's a lot of like unknowns about some of these ancient buildings. And I think that is pretty suspect. So that ceiling is like, so yeah, the concrete dome is like the biggest unsupported concrete dome in the world. And it looks like it looks like it has something to do with power generation, because I believe this looks like a some kind of electrical piece inside of it. Yeah, I guess the picture it doesn't really do it any justice. Let me see. There's another picture of like what's crazy is old Penn Station. Now, if you go look at the old Penn Station, which is really interesting. You see the ceiling in there. Okay, let me see. Let me share this. So the ceiling to the old Penn Station looks very similar to the Pantheon in Rome. So this was supposedly built in the 1800s in America, right? The old Penn Station. You guys got to see the picture. If you guys have not seen the pictures of old Penn Station, this thing is ridiculous. You see the better pictures in here. Look, again, here's a construction photo with obviously no construction actually happening. There's a full building there. Yeah, again, we see scaffolding with most of a building. We see vanilla skies. Yeah, that looks really sus. Look at the inside of that place, though. Can you guys see closely how small the humans are inside this place? I mean, just look at one of the people in the picture and look at him next to one of those columns. Unbelievable. And I say that in the most literal sense. It is unbelievable that was built by those people they're milling around in the lobby of this place. Yeah, so I mean, so back to the question. Back to your question. Maybe those are Millennial Kingdom buildings in Washington, D.C. Maybe they were built by the Romans. Maybe some of the buildings some of the greatest buildings built by the Romans were not built by the Romans. Because again, they don't even give a lot of specifics about when they were built. Even though, again, it's interesting that you have somebody like Josephus, who obviously we rely on a lot to talk about 70 AD and the Roman Jewish War. Isn't it funny? So Josephus puts a lot of detail in this war, but nobody writes down when they started building the Pantheon, like one of the most impressive buildings in the whole world, even still. That is sus. It's sus. See. All right, let me see. I'm sure I'm missing some questions here. Do you listen to Aridin? I've never heard of him or her. Hey, JC, thanks for all the old world research and discussions on the topic. Have you considered inviting Dr. Narcolago from Old World, Florida on a live stream and joining? I would. I mean, I've heard him on other podcasts, and he seems very interesting. I don't know him though, but I would certainly be into it if he was down. Question: do you think all the land masses were connected until the start of Satan's little season? I wouldn't say they're all connected. I think that, well, at some point we've talked about the possibility that Pangaea was a real thing, and it's not that long ago. Like that might be the big lie about it, that it wasn't like a million years ago. Maybe Pangaea was more recent. All I really know is you have evidence of old maps. And so these old maps, even from like the 1500s, supposedly, they show the continents separated. I guess the truth of the matter is we really don't know when Satan's little season started. Some people believe the 1500s. That kind of makes sense too, but again, we're working off dates that we don't even know we can believe reliable that they're true. So I don't know. I guess I don't know. Obviously, I was supposed to have a podcast, maybe even this Tuesday, talking with Seven Club again, and he has a theory about the 4 quadrants of the realm, and it's based on the kind of idea of the moon map, is that we're only seeing a portion of the Earth in the realm, because we can really only, as humans, can basically only survive in a certain part of this realm because of where the circuit of the sun goes. But there's a precession of the circuit of the sun which changes. So is it possible that when the circuit of the sun changes, things that were once frozen melt, and things that were previously not frozen freeze because the circuit of the sun leaves these places? So it's very possible that in the times of Jesus, the world as we know it looked different, not because the land was way different, but it's because of where was inhabitable versus where was not inhabitable. And maybe that's which changed. But again, these are obviously wild theories. Thoughts of Yahweh being Satan in the Old Testament. Jesus himself said, "No one has seen or heard the true God." So did Moses talk? I don't think that Jesus ever said that. Jesus said, "No man has ever." Well, it says nobody's ever seen God, because it mentions like the way that Moses sees him is obviously in a different kind of way. Or it says nobody's seen the Father. It's possible that Jesus was seeing an incarnation of Christ on Mount Sinai. But no, I mean, Don't you think that'd be a pretty big thing to say if Jesus wanted to say that? Obviously, the God of the Old Testament is the God of the New Testament. They're not different. They're the same. Obviously, Jesus is the visible form of the invisible Father, and Jesus gave honor to the Father. He's definitely not calling the God of the Old Testament Satan. No, that's like I said, that's really close to being blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, in my opinion. Have you ever seen the movie Dark City? Lots of themes, flat Earth, Mandela effect. I have not, but I'm interested. Let me see. Renegade Seed. How did Thomas Jefferson know what Rome looked like to recreate it? Excellent question. How did he know so much about it? It's likely because he was in the Freemasons, and many people speculate that because he was very sympathetic to Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati. Maybe that's how he knew, because there was some connection there. It was funny. The wife and I last spring, we went to Monticello. And she laughs because I said it right this time. I want to call it Monticello. And we went there. And so Thomas Jefferson has all this. Hey, it's almost like he had all these knickknacks on his wall and stuff like that. I don't know if any of that stuff was original to the house. It looked like a lot of this stuff was staged. It did not look like a house that anybody ever lived in. But what's funny was that they had a pyramid on like the mantle of like the, above the fireplace. And of course, me being me, I had to ask, has Thomas Jefferson ever been to Egypt? What's up with the pyramid? And of course, the guys kind of mumbling, stumbling because they don't normally get asked questions like that. And they were saying that, well, he did have some kind of fascination with Egypt. And I was like, I bet he did. Let me see. John Levi has made a video he made like 3 years ago called Star Forts and Mines Revelation. He mentions it in the beginning of about the little season. Didn't talk much about it, but mentioned it. Yeah, I remember I have seen him mention the little season, but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear his whole theory on that. He obviously typically doesn't get too religious, but yeah, I would love to have him on the podcast. I think he'd be fun. JT, can I recommend a church in Virginia Beach to you? They have good community, but I know how you feel about brick and mortar churches. They stayed open during COVID for what that's worth. Yeah, sure, you can suggest one. Will I go? Maybe. Go ahead. Shoot. Do you believe that the North Pole is the Garden of Eden and is the camp of the saints there where Jesus is currently? I mean, that has been people's best guess. Obviously, there's lots of references to the north. Now, what's interesting about let's go look at something real quick. Let's go look at the merge. Okay, let's look at this real quick. Okay, let me share this. Okay, so you guys got a good look at the Mercator map right here. All right, so you can see this map. I mean, look at it. Now, what you kind of see here, what's interesting is this is what we're told is you got the Rupus Nigra in the middle. You got 4 rivers, which obviously that's what the Bible talks about, Eden having 4 rivers. The Euphrates, the Tigris, the Euphrates, was it the Gihon, and I forget the other one. Well, obviously we only know 2 of those rivers, and maybe they're not even the same ones. So this has this interesting design, which some people liken this to maybe this is where the swastika comes from, which obviously is not a German symbol. It's a much older symbol that was obviously stolen by those bad guys from the 30s, and now we can't use it. But it's interesting. So there's a magnetic mountain, and then there's a whirlpool, and there's 4 rivers, and there's like 4 different continents. Okay, so most people know that part. Now the interesting part about this is, what are the other countries around this place? I mean, it's kind of even like, is that even kind of what it looks like to us now? So is it possible that that map is accurate, but we don't know exactly where that is? Because maybe, again, if we talked about like the circuit of the sun changes, the dead middle, the dead center of the realm would change with the precession of the sun. So maybe that area is different than where it used to be. Or, I mean, it's not, I mean, that place has always been where it is, but from our vantage point as people living in the world as we know it, in the middle of where the circuit of the sun is, maybe that has changed. Maybe that is where the Garden of Eden is. I don't know. I mean, I guess I said it's kind of hard to say like if that's where they are, but I don't know. I mean, like, how could we confirm that? I think that from my perspective, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this, and that's fine. They don't have to agree. I think that the camp of the saints is not a place that we have access to until we die. Now, is it possible you could surround it? Yes, I believe you have to be able to surround it, because somehow Satan gathers the armies, Gog, Magog, all the nations he deceives. They surround the camp of the saints, and they're burned by fire. But could we go there? Could we go inside there? Maybe we could see it. Maybe we couldn't. It is interesting, like maybe the idea of like a heavenly kingdom. Could it be visible to us if God wanted us to see it? Yes. Is it visible other times? I don't know. That's what I don't know. So hopefully that answers your question somewhat. JT, have you ever heard the large island of Mu? It's about twice as big as Australia, and it's a lower Pacific in older maps. I have, but we can look that up as well now. Let's see. Mu continent. Interesting. Okay. Let's share this. I've not done any research into this, but this is certainly interesting. The lost continent of Mu. Okay, so obviously when you see it, it's as big as North America. I mean, it's basically as big as, I mean, it's bigger than South America as far as I can tell. It's interesting that it kind of like, it looks like it shows like it's part of Hawaii. Way bigger than Australia. That's interesting. I mean, again, like you think about it, like there's lots of stuff they're under the water. So is that place possibly under the water now, under the Pacific? Yeah, I guess it is possible. But I guess I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about that because, like I said, I don't know how significant that is to us. Bigfoot testimonies to Alberino, Genesis 6, Nephilim to Nephilim look like clowns. JT follows J short C. Oh yeah, okay. I guess I probably missed the first part of that. Did anyone else see my lunch break new video on dragons? I have not. How was it? Let me see. James, Eden is a large landmass with Garden of Eden in the east of Eden, right? JT, the northern lights, the angels, the sword spinning. Why are you using so many question marks? I mean, obviously what the Bible says about it's true, but again, like we are trying to wrap our heads around the idea that maybe these locations are not how they appear, as our modern maps might be different. I don't know. Are you getting worked up? Could the whole Earth be the camp of the saints, and the ice wall be what surrounds us? Oh, so are you suggesting that there's stuff outside of here that could be surrounding this place? That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. Well, like I said, it's interesting in that idea that, again, you have the rotating sun. The sun has a precession, and the precessions change obviously with the different astronomical ages. And so the ice wall actually moves in this theory. It makes sense to me because, like, wherever the sun is, the light and the heat melts the ice. And obviously, as the sun ventures further into different parts of our realm, think the Prague clock, that the ice would melt in certain places and it would freeze in other places. So the sun goes on a circuit, so it always be a circular, as the Lord sits on God sits on the circle above the circle of the earth. So the circle of the earth could change as far as from our perspective. From God's perspective, I assume it's always the same. It says, hey, JT, have you ever driven to Langley to document the mud flood buildings? I bet there would be a lot of good content there. No, but I'm thinking about going to Fort Monroe sometime. And Fort Monroe has, so this is actually we have a local star fort. Let me see. Fort Monroe. So I go here. And let me change to. Okay, so this is near where I live, guys. Let me see. Let me share this. Okay, so this is not far from where I live, and you guys seeing this? Yeah, they have a star fort, a pretty clear one, where we're at in a place called Fort Monroe. And Fort Monroe was like supposedly like a base back in the day, and it no longer has any function. There's no reason that rich boy, you want to hang out there? Yeah, let's go check it out. Yeah, I need some backup to go over there. But yeah, so there's a star fort there, and it's really strange. It's really strange that that's there. Like, why is it there? Like why would you need that to defend anything? Again, like you're talking about, like supposedly they put these things, and of course they always put cannons on the ends of on the edge of these things because they're trying to make it seem like there was some kind of strategic reason for this. But obviously the big water is on the outside of this, right? So like, wouldn't you put the cannons over here on the edges of this, not in the middle of the star fort place? So yeah, that's it's interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So yeah, Rich, let's do it, bro. Let me see. Tucker Carlson controlled opposition. I think that I was going to have potentially another Decoding Babylon, and we were going to talk about, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but I want to talk about with Demon Racers. I want to talk about Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and also Russell Brand. Maybe even Jim Caviezel. And we'll talk about that. Are these people controlled opposition? Maybe throw Alex Jones in there. Are they controlled opposition? Like, what's to make of the fact that they're saying very true things? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the people who follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and all that stuff, they saw that I posted a clip of what Candace Owens was saying on Russell Brand's show. She's talking about the dark age not being dark. Guys, that's pretty awesome that she's saying those kind of things. So Obviously, the first pushback you get though is she's controlled opposition. She might be. She might be, but I would say that it's still significant to me that you have people with massive audiences, millions of people listen to these people. How many millions of downloads do they get on their podcast? And they're saying things that were once very fringe, not very long ago. The stuff that Tucker Carlson is saying now was once very fringe. It was people like us talked about it. And now somebody with obviously a massive audience is letting people know. And I believe that the truth is the truth. And I think that, to me, yeah, I mean, I think that, again, like, when Jesus, remember when the disciples were trying to rebuke somebody who was casting out demons in Jesus' name, and Jesus said, just let him. I think that maybe this is a situation like this where, like, it's important that the truth is getting out there. They obviously have a platform way bigger than any of us could ever have. And are they going to end up saying, untrue things at some point? Yes. But let's just say this. If I tell you guys not to trust me, if I point out the fact that they're saying true things and I find it significant, I am not telling you to go over to their channel and believe everything they say now. Right? I mean, we're supposed to be discerning. Like, and I love that. Of course, I'm sure somebody's going to point out something that Charles Spurgeon said that was horrible. But Charles Spurgeon had this awesome quote that said, discernment is not the difference between right and wrong. It's the difference between right and almost right. So I expect people with the Holy Spirit and the Bible as their guide to be very, very careful what they believe and be Bereans. Go look up the things they say. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing that those people are saying the things they're saying right now. And I don't think we should be quick to scold everyone who's interested in listening to them, because I think it's kind of exciting, because I think that it's very possible at some point that the little season comes up on one of these shows. That's absolutely insane, because I feel like that these shows are on, like, they're on the slippery slope to all the conspiracies we've been talking about. And yes, they might be trying to put some leaven in there. They might try to control the narrative. Well, when they do, we'll still be here. But I still think, I do think it's for the normies who won't accept the things you guys say, the things I say. Maybe they are going to get people over to podcasts like this when they'll get more of the story. I think that's possible. That's my hope and my prayer, anyways. Let's see. See, I missed a message from. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you guys about this. So I had a theory. If you guys had seen my video about what's it called, the Wright Brothers Memorial. So somebody in my comment section had a very good thought about that. If you guys have seen that, because somebody's mentioned airships and star forts. Okay, so the Wright Brothers Memorial has a star fort as its base. And so wouldn't there be some irony there if what that place was originally meant for, again, if it was an old world building, it had nothing to do with the Wright brothers, but it does have something to do with flight. What if that place is actually related to the idea that maybe that was a docking station, a mooring station to an airship? Wouldn't that be something? I think that kind of makes sense. Obviously, I mentioned in the thing where it looks like a lighthouse now, and it's got some kind of tiny little light on the top of it. It doesn't match the rest of the structure. What if that was a mooring station? Because yeah, like, you could possibly get off the thing and you could go down into the memorial and you could come out those doors. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. JT follows JC. Do you know about J Dreamersy being a plant along with Tucker and Sean Ryan. Jay, Jay, I would be very shocked if that's true. I think I'm actually supposed to go on his podcast here soon. I think that Jay seems like a guy who's obviously in search of the truth. I didn't get the idea that he's a plant. He seems like a genuine guy. Now, obviously, I don't know where he's at spiritually with his relation with Jesus, but he seems like an awesome dude. I really like him, and I like talking to him. So no, I don't think that he's a plant at all. Common denominator is that they are all becoming Catholic odd. Well, that was one thing about Candace Owens, is that she was trying to evangelize Russell Brand to Catholicism. Now, Russell Brand, she asked him what denomination he was, and he said, "I'm non-denominational." And then she was trying to push him toward Catholicism, which obviously I don't like that. I don't like that, but I mean, no, I don't like, I'll just full stop. I don't like that. Obviously, that church, I would say, is the spirit of Antichrist with the Pope and all that stuff. You guys know that about me. I don't agree with that, what they believe. But it does not mean that she can't say true things. I mean, it is sort of strange how she's changed her like she's deciding to speak out more, and she's literally attributing this to her faith in Christ. But she's, at the same time, she quickly became a Catholic. I guess her husband was a Catholic though too. So biblically, like the husband's supposed to lead in that situation. Maybe she's getting bad advice though. I think she is. James, I would have, before I ever have you on my show, I'd have to know more about you. I don't just have I don't have anybody on I don't know. So if you have some videos that you've made, if you've done podcasts, I would be interested in listening to them possibly, and then maybe I'd get back to you. Well, thank you, Isabella. Appreciate that. Love you too. Let me see. I haven't heard anyone in the internet speak correctly on Babylon of Revelation chapter 18. Well, I think Babylon, the harlot, if you're talking about the harlot's Jerusalem. Like I said, I'm very clear that that's the truth in the Bible. The Bible, you go right from the original prophets, like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel. I'm not sure Daniel ever mentions it, but Jerusalem is the harlot. Jerusalem is called a whore by Daniel, called a whore by Isaiah. It was the unfaithful bride. And then so you go into the Second Temple period, nothing changed. They were still unfaithful. And again, you think about the imagery of that there's supposed to be this marriage between God and Israel. God divorces Israel in the Old Testament, and Jesus has to come and die to make it anew, to start a new covenant. And that's why you have a resurrected, basically, New Jerusalem that is the spotless bride. But no, I think Babylon is very clearly Jerusalem in the in the Old Testament and the New Testament, in the book of Revelation. And the beast is Rome. And if we believe 70 AD was when lots of this stuff went down, the beast in book of Revelation burns the whore with fire. That happened in the Jewish-Roman War. Jesus says not to have discernment and to follow our earthly masters no matter what. No, he doesn't say that. See. They Live is an interesting movie. Obviously, there's tons of symbolism in that one. Trish, love you too. The Olympics probably woke a lot of people up. You know what? I made a couple videos where I did like a monologue talking about some of these things. And then I was like, I feel like the Olympics thing is very similar to the Trump shooting thing. Eventually there's so many of people that are like, do the things I do that I didn't want to be another person just talking for no reason. And but I wanted to say, like, of course, I wanted to be real sarcastic, and I thought the only way I would, if I said what I wanted to say, I'd get in trouble. But I did want to say that, and of course, you guys are all on the same page. Where like, if we believe the people who run this place are satanic pizza files, does anyone want to deny that now? I mean, is there anybody who could deny that now? Like, it's right out in the open once again. But again, this is one example of many where they give us all the time. But yeah, like anybody who's like half asleep still, you could say, "Hey, remember when I told you all that stuff? Look at the look what they did with the Last Supper again for the Olympics." Like I said, it's very obvious. So yeah, so hopefully it has woke some more people up. What is the gospel? The gospel is the good news. The good news is that God sent his son to die for us, to be a sacrifice for us. And if we accept that gift, the gift of grace, and we walk in faith with our belief in Jesus, then we will have eternal life with him forever. Bold-hearted men are always called mean-spirited, but cowards. Interesting. It's kind of an awesome quote. That sounds like something that sounds like he would have been fighting mad about the Last Supper debacle at the Olympics. Normies aren't listening to Alex Jones or Tucker. I think that well, you think about it. So if somebody watched Tucker Carlson back when he was on Fox News, they would fall into the normie category. Lots of them, anyways. Obviously, he had millions of people watch the show. How many normies followed him to his podcast and now are less normal than they used to be? Again, I do believe that guys like Tucker obviously he's got a lot of sway, and I think it's very possible that he is helping the truth get out there more. Doesn't mean everything says is true. Doesn't mean I'm telling you to trust him. But a lot of people are probably waking up listening to him, and they're curious about the information he's got, and they're going to other places to find it. So, you know what's interesting? I was listening to a podcast. It was actually Owen Benjamin. Actually, it was BioCharisma, who I just did the podcast on. He was on Owen Benjamin's podcast, and I was trying to like figure out a little about Topher because he was on his show. And Owen Benjamin is funny. He's very crude. Obviously, he pushes the line about like the racist humor. But he actually said something that was very interesting that I found, was that it's almost like that knowledge that's not earned, and this might sound Gnostic, I don't think he meant it this way, is really not valued. So it's kind of like that. But I kind of understood what he meant. And I thought it was an interesting concept, is that it's kind of like that when you're curious about a subject and you go research it yourself, that's likely going to stick with you, and it's likely going to change your mind when you do it. Versus when somebody just tells you something straight up that they did the research for. And I do think about this sometimes. And I thought about this in the sense that of what we do on these podcasts, where lots of us just barf out lots of information about things we've researched. And obviously, to the curious mind, I'm sure that things I've said on these podcasts, things I've researched, you guys have went and researched yourself, and you guys have obviously expanded your knowledge about all that stuff. But just listening to me say it when never looking it up, it is not going to have the same effect. That's in the same way that why you could tell somebody the truth and they could just not believe you. And in the same way that I got friends who are kind of like on the fence as far as like biblical cosmology and stuff like that. And it's not my place to debate that stuff. I'm not that kind of I'm not that kind of a content creator. That's not what I've ever sought to be. Like, I'm telling you, here's what the Bible says about biblical cosmology. I have enough with that, and obviously my empirical evidence of the things I can see with my own eyes and the research I've done. You know, when I was waking up to that, I was never trying to tell somebody to prove it to me. I went and looked it up. And I think that's why obviously I changed my mind about things based on that. But when somebody's trying to like press you, it's kind of like there's no point in that. It's kind of like if you're really curious about this and you really want to know the truth, then the information is out there. And I think sometimes maybe that's the whole point of like that we're here to plant seeds. And so obviously no man comes to the Father, or no man comes to Jesus unless the Father draws him. So at some point there is a action that's required on the other side to go seek, to find. You know, seek and you will be found. So you have to go seek first. You have to ask first before you're answered. You have to knock before the doors open. So there's an action from us that needs to happen first in order to get the answers. And I do think that was a good point. It just made me think about that. It's the fact that this requires a lot in order to retain this information. And obviously you have to have a desire, and you have to actually have to go seek it out yourselves. Well, James, Babylon in the book of Revelation is Mystery Babylon. It's not actually Babylon. It's Jerusalem. Even in the book of Revelation, it also calls Jerusalem like symbolically Sodom. It wasn't literally Sodom. It was symbolically Sodom. In the same way, Mystery Babylon was not actually Babylon. JT, do you have any thoughts on who the true Israelites are? Truth Unedited says they're the black slaves. Others say Anglo-Saxons. I don't think, like I said, I think that stuff is kind of like you're getting into the weeds. I mean, it's interesting why Truth Unedited and those people say that they're slaves, because they go back to the book of, was it Deuteronomy, when it talks about them going on ships back to Egypt. But it's the interesting part about that. It's like that prophecy. Just think about what we talked about this on our debunking of his debunking about the little season. I think it's interesting that what we're supposed to believe based on their take on the reason that those people obviously came over on ships to America. Again, if we believe in the little season, do we even believe that? I don't even know what we believe about that. But the funny part about it is that what we are supposed to believe, if that's the truth, is that prophecy was not even fulfilled until chattel slavery in the Americas. So God makes this prophecy all the way back in the times of Moses, and it's not fulfilled until what, like the 1700s? That is insane. Obviously, that's not true. I mean, there's no way that's true. You're thinking that prophecy has not been fulfilled yet? I mean, the point was that prophecy was to the people who went into the promised land and then eventually were kicked out and they were dispersed. And then there was a remnant that came back again during the second temple period. And then that place was made desolate in the times of Jesus, or the times of the apostles. The main point is, like, it doesn't matter what color they were. That's not important. Like I said, to me, that is always it's a divisive issue. What does it matter? Like, really, what does it matter? I mean, I think that, go back into the book of Galatians, there is no Jew nor Greek, nor slave nor free. There's no male nor female. We're all one in Christ Jesus. And if we're one in Christ, then we're all Abraham's seed. How much more clear does it got to get? Even Paul says that nobody's a Jew only outwardly. Nobody can be just circumcised outwardly. It's a circumcision of the heart. It's the belief in the promise of Abraham that makes you a true Jew, to be grafted into the vine. It's not about skin color. It's just, I mean, again, like this is obviously in Satan's little season. This is a big divisive issue, one of the biggest divisive issues in our time. And again, it's, I think, what I think is very interesting, diabolical is more like it, that I remember back in the day, as growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I felt like that we were on the road to, obviously there was getting less racism. And I think that there was. You know, there's always going to be divisions in people, because I mean, people naturally gravitate to people like them. But I think what makes us more together is what our belief in Jesus, right? Because when you believe the same things, you're more brothers than somebody who just looks like you, right? It's not like I'm taking up for all the white people. It's kind of like there's a lot of bad, you know, I don't like all of them either. So it's like, so no matter what color you are, wherever you're from, our belief in Jesus, and obviously our belief in the things we're talking about right now, makes us brothers and sisters. That's why we call each other brother and sister, just like the Bible does, right? And it has nothing to do with the way we look. So now things have gone way more into division. And that's not because things are getting better. It's because things are getting worse, and they're designed to be worse. Divide and conquer. That's what the enemy wants. That's exactly what that's exactly what it's doing. Okay, so James, Babylon's isn't Jerusalem according to Isaiah 13. That's because there was an actual Babylon in Isaiah. There was a real place called Babylon, right? In Jeremiah, there was a real place called Babylon. Bro, like, it's called Mystery Babylon in the book of Revelation because symbolically, and what it's called is the whore of Babylon. It talks about Jerusalem playing the harlot to all these kingdoms. That's what it's about. It's like, obviously those prophecies in Isaiah and Jeremiah eventually get fulfilled in the times of those prophets. Well, not specifically in Isaiah, but yeah, a lot of those prophecies are fulfilled in those generations because they're speaking to the people they're speaking to. In the book of Revelation, yeah, obviously that Babylon, the Nebuchadnezzar, kingdom, empire, had been wiped out. It was gone. So then you had symbolic Sodom, symbolic Mystery Babylon. That's Jerusalem. HRGM 333. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless you. Yeah, the Jerusalem. See, this is what I'm talking about, James. You're not seeing what I'm saying, and I don't know why you're not seeing this. The Jerusalem in the book of Revelation is New Jerusalem. It's not the one that's made desolate. I mean, I'm not even sure what you believe. Like, Jerusalem was destroyed. It was razed to the ground and burned with fire in 70 AD. No one lived there after that. So is God a liar? Or no, he's not. So he's not talking about that Jerusalem. That Jerusalem was made desolate. Right? Which actually, along with that subject, because I'm not going to argue anymore. What I want to talk about is the fact that, so I finished the book of Jeremiah last week, and then I was reading Lamentations. And so there's debate whether who wrote Lamentations or not, but it's likely it was Jeremiah. And so you had that imagery. And so this is after Babylon destroys Jerusalem, destroys basically the nation, first Israel, the nation of Israel, then Judah, Jerusalem, destroys the temple. And so the imagery in that thing is like, so God said all these things were going to happen, and it had happened. And it said the virgin daughter was made desolate. And so I thought about that. I'm like, okay, so then you have all these prophecies about, Ezekiel's talking about the desolation of Jerusalem. Okay, so then we go, I'm not there yet, but you can go into the book of Daniel. And so Daniel's prophesying about the abomination of desolation. So obviously that's the one we all really know, the one we're always talked about, the abomination of desolation. And so then Jesus himself in Matthew 24 says, when you see the abomination of desolation, flee to the mountains of Judea. Okay, so what we're taught based on the futurist view is that they were talking about a future desolation, not the one in 70 AD. Correct? Okay, so my question is, who did prophesy about the one in 70 AD? Right? Because isn't that quite an omission in the Bible? Because it's like, it really is like the futurists try to leap past the second temple period, like it almost like it never happened. And I think that's pretty, I mean, conveniently they do that. Because how was Daniel not talking about 70 AD? Because he's prophesying about a new temple being built, and then this 70 weeks takes place sometime around when the temple is, when there's a decree to rebuild the second temple, or rebuild the temple at all. I keep on saying the second temple, to rebuild the temple. So they rebuild the temple, and then there's this 490-year period. And then it ends with the destruction of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple itself. And then so Jesus speaks of the abomination of desolation, and he speaks in, was it Luke 21, about nations encircling Jerusalem. Again, you flee. And then again, you have the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, and it's been made desolate to this day, the Temple Mount. So there's no prophecies about that one. There's only a prophecy about the one sometime in the future from now, when there's still not a temple there. That's crazy. Like that's absolutely crazy. So was there another temple? Was there another prophecy about another desolation besides the one that's in the future? I mean, it's very obvious that there's not. What I think is interesting too is, again, that how big a deal it was that Jerusalem was made desolate in the first century. And again, there's not a book about that desolation, like recounting that event. Craziness. Let's see. New Jerusalem will come down later. Everyone keeps saying we are about to be raptured after the Olympus shenanigans. And I just help tell these people not to be deceived. Well, right. Again, everybody thinks it's the end times, obviously, because they want to get out of this place. Is it the end times? Well, again, it could be the very, very end times of the end times, but again, it's hard to say. Are you familiar with Don K. Preston? I am not. Imminent Rapture has been big time on YouTube since September 2015. Nothing but the date setting. After date setting, no one says they're wrong and takes accountability for the damage caused. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if you're a prophet, you can't be wrong. You can't be wrong a lot either. I'm reading Luke currently. It's awesome. Everything changed. 3:22:22. See Luke 3:22. Our Father has an awesome sense of humor. And all these things had already happened. What makes anyone think we are still in the book of Revelation? Well, there's people who believe in full preterism that would say that all the things have been fulfilled. Everything. Now, the people who believe in the little season like us, we don't believe that, because for one, there's a prophecy about after the little season that Satan is thrown into the lake of fire. I mean, I would say that, like, again, the Olympics is a good example of the fact that, no, it's not all written, because I think that it seems clear that the devil is active right now, right? The devil seems very active right now. And how do I know that? Because the Olympics were to honor Zeus, as the Bible says he's Satan, and they revived the Olympics in 18 was it 1894 to a ceremony, a ritualistic, set of games to honor Satan. That seems kind of weird if he's already in the lake of fire, right? I like I said, I don't see any way past that, and I also don't believe in that full preterist view of that heaven and earth are symbolic of something else. That seems like to me like that is allegorizing things that are not said to be allegory. Like, let scripture interpret scripture. I don't see anything that says heaven and earth have anything to do with the temple, the law, the Pharisees, anything like that. I don't agree with that. So that's why I think we're still in the book of Revelation, because for one, I don't see a new heaven and new earth. Like I said, I don't see that being symbolic. And I think the devil's active. So I would say that he has not been thrown in the lake of fire yet. I say there's a lot of deception. That's why I believe we're in Satan's little season, because has there ever been a more deceptive time than now? Maybe there's nothing new under the sun, but it seems like it is to me. See, JT, have you ever watched Ed Murray's breakdown of Revelation on Nephilim Death Squad? If so, what do you think about it? I have not. I mean, it's funny. Like I said, I've been a post-tribber before I was a little seasonist, and so I'm really not interested in hearing people's breakdowns of the Book of Revelation if they're not going to say that some of these things have taken place already. I just don't see. Like I said, I don't see how you can say that there hasn't been, because again, Revelation 11 talks about that the Gentiles trample on the holy city for 42 months. That's exactly how long the Jewish-Roman war was. And at the end of that war, the holy city was trampled, burned with fire. How could they say that it hasn't happened yet? It's happened. JT, it says the abomination is staring where. Well, read in the book of Ezekiel. So I was just reading Ezekiel where it was talking about, I think it was Ezekiel chapter 8, where it talks about Ezekiel is like digging through the wall. He's getting a vision and he's looking about, and the Lord is saying, see the abominations happening in the temple. Okay, so just because we don't have a clear instance of what the abomination was, we know that there's an accounts even from Josephus himself that the zealots were doing abominable things in the temple, and then it was destroyed. So there was abominations there, and now it's desolate. So to me, that's your abomination of desolation. Again, it could not be more desolate than it is right now. If we're told that that is the original Temple Mount, there's a Muslim mosque there now. Daniel talks about that there's a stop to the sacrifices in the temple. What futurists are trying to tell us is that there needs to be a new temple built so they can start sacrificing, only for them to stop sacrificing when they haven't sacrificed since the temple was destroyed in the 1st century. So again, I believe that it's quite desolate now, and I think that was one of the first things, kind of like light bulb moments of like, hey, wait a minute. I think it's desolate now. Like they don't sacrifice now. Why? Wait, we're talking about them sacrificing just so they can stop. Like I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Question: weren't several of the OT prophets all contemporaries? Yes, some of them were. I know Ezekiel and Daniel were contemporaries, because what I think is interesting, again, it talks about how God would not spare Israel. He would not spare Jerusalem to Ezekiel, even if Noah, Job, and Daniel were there, which I thought that was pretty interesting, because it's like, so Daniel, I think he must have been in Babylon at the time, but obviously Daniel was put on the level of Job and Noah during the times of Ezekiel when he lived. I thought that was pretty interesting. But I know Isaiah was well before Jeremiah. Jeremiah's before basically the captivity, and I'm sure he probably lived in the times of Ezekiel and Daniel, but I imagine he'd be much older. And then, of course, you got many other prophets as well. Futurism made me scared to have more kids. Now it's my biggest regret. Yeah, I mean that is a tough thing where people are trying to say like that they're so sure when the end of the world's going to happen, therefore act like it's the end of the world. When the Bible, I mean, again, I don't think that the Bible tells us to do that. OT says a prophet is to be 100% correct if he's from the Lord. Correct. I'm a full preterist, and I attribute it to a lot of mistranslation. Yeah, but so what's your take though on the fact that, again, like I said, that it's almost seems to me like the fact that we even debate these things, that it hasn't all happened, because if it had all happened, we would be living a time without the devil, and maybe it wouldn't be so deceptive. That makes sense to me. Thanks, JT. New here and digging it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, Dreamer. The book of Mark says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, flee to the mountains. The temple being surrounded by armies was the desolation. Yes, obviously. Yeah, it's so obvious when you see it. Yeah, like I said, it's like trying to talk about futurist issues with futurists now, because it's like, yeah, so a lot of people see the stuff that happens in the Olympics and they'll say Jesus is coming back now. You know what was interesting? Let me see if I can find this tweet. Let me see this was kind of cool. Let me see. See if I can find this tweet over here. Okay, I'm going over to my my Twitter or my X account, and let's see if I can find this. Oh, let me see. Oh shoot, I can't find it. Let me see. Say Paris power. Check this out. Okay, let me see. Let me share this with you guys real quick. I'm gonna bounce here soon, so if you guys got any more questions, I'm gonna hurry up and get them out there. Let's see. Okay, so this is interesting right here. You guys see this? So there was a power outage in Paris, like sometime after all the debauchery and the blasphemy. And what was interesting is, so you see, here's Benny Johnson. Massive power outage hits Paris. One of the only things in light, the sacred, is it Cure Church? Okay, so what's interesting about that to me is that, for one, obviously it was a church, right? You know, you can see this thing, it's all lit up, it's gleaming. Okay, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? So a couple of possibilities here. What if all the power was out and this place, why it was really still lit up? It could have been the power of God, sure. But what if it was the fact that this place had free energy and it was not on the same grid as all the other things that went out, the power went out on? That's just me speculating, but it is kind of interesting to think about, like the domes and obviously the Antiquitech, I'm sure this obviously it's an old world building. Do you think it's possible that some of these buildings are still on the Millennial Kingdom system, the free energy system, and that's why it's got power? Just saying. Just saying. I think it's possible. Let's see. Um yeah, I think am I approaching 2 hours on here? Let me see. Do you think the weather can be controlled? I mean, I think it can definitely be controlled to a certain extent. I mean, if they can make it rain, they can. I mean, we know they cloud seed, they can make it rain. I know they can make clouds. I've seen them do it. I mean, you can see that. I know there's a famous video of that show Top Gear where they use the Artemis engines, so the Artemis rocket engines. This is what we're told. So I guess the engines get so hot, suppose they spray them with water, and literally it makes a cloud. And then the cloud goes on, comes back, and it rains on Jeremy Clarkson. And then he has this famous line of saying, NASA's playing God. So yes, they can make certain types of weather very obviously. Now, how much can they make? That's the real question. Dreamer, I'm new to this, 2 weeks in. How do you guys find friends? LL, no one wants to hear me talk about it. Well, I mean, finding people IRL in real life who want to talk about this, pretty rare. Pretty rare. I mean, it's funny, like somebody like me, obviously, I'm putting my flag out here talking about this stuff. And I have people who are local who want to talk about it now because they already know what I talk about. But yeah, it's an interesting topic to bring up, like to do a cold call and talk about the little season, because a lot of Christians will be upset when you start saying these things. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like finding people in real life, like I mean, we just pray that there'll be more soon. I mean, I think the more that this community does seem like it's growing, so obviously it will expand outside the internet here at some point. Maybe again when Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens start talking about it. JT, do you believe the little scroll that John received was the gospel, the New Testament? If so, do you think Revelation was written in 61 CE before, therefore Paul mentions the trumpets? I don't know. I mean, I would say that the gospel had, I mean, the gospel of the kingdom. I mean, I believe that already come. I don't know what it is. The scroll that he ate that was bitter in his mouth. I have to look back into that. I have to read Revelation again. Of course, I'm on my journey to read the Bible once again, and I'm only to the book of Ezekiel right now. So, not saying I can't cheat ahead and look in Revelation, but I need to look more about that, like why there was the one scroll that was sweet and it was also bitter. I think obviously it has something to do with like the tribulation and obviously the things that the saints are going to have to suffer. But obviously there's good news at the end of it. But like I said, that's my first take without actually revisiting and looking at it again. Mud flood was Armageddon. The abomination, Daniel's desolation, took away the daily sacrifice, so there was no more real Jewish worship. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, see, correct. So, like, the fact that there hasn't been sacrifices for 2,000 years, how can you not say that was the abomination of desolation? I mean, just think about it. So, what we're taught is, or not what we're taught, what the Bible says is that there was a stopping of the sacrificing in the temple and when Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon came and destroyed the first temple. So there was like more than a generation of people who did not actually get to sacrifice at the temple because they were in captivity and they were obviously led captive in all these different nations. And then God brought a remnant back. And then like I said, it describes that as being made desolate in the book of Lamentations. Ezekiel talks about the desolation that's coming to Jerusalem. So this is desolation, and this was 70 years in captivity. And then there's a rebuilt temple. Okay, so now after what the Romans did to Jerusalem, we're talking about 2,000 years of desolation. I mean, isn't it mind-blowing that that's not more significant to people? I mean, it's not, because they don't know about it, because they haven't been taught about it, and because they haven't gone and researched the stuff themselves. All right, guys. I'm gonna log off for the evening. I appreciate you guys. You guys have been awesome. These were great guests. Were great questions. You guys in the chat were awesome tonight. I really appreciate you guys. Hopefully, I'm going to get on here a couple times this week and do some live streams. I need to do some straight up podcasts here soon, obviously, and do some editing and do all that kind of good stuff. But if you guys got any topics you guys want me to hit inside the little season, or anything outside the little season, guys, let me know in the comments. Please let me know what you guys want to talk about, because some of the best podcasts I've had is people request like that you guys want to, things we can take the time to go research and come up with a good show for you guys. But anyways, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the super chats. I love you. HRMG 333. You got to come up with a better name than that, though. I love you guys. I love you, though. I appreciate your support. I love you guys. God bless you guys. I will see you guys soon. Yeah, like, share, subscribe. I know that's a lame thing to say, but it does help me out. So love you guys. God bless.